In class, the teachers had the students pass back handouts for tomorrow's home ec cooking class, and our protagonist, 15-year-old Okuto Nakamura, who had just entered Hoshimi High this spring as a freshman, was frantically unfocused on class, and more focused on the boy he had a crush on. The first day he saw Hirose was at the opening day ceremony. Nakamura stood slumped and tired as the principal gave the welcoming speech, until he saw Hirose's light, curly, chestnut hair, big, round, gleaming eyes, and he marveled over Hirose's slightly tanned skin, as well as his expressions that changed every second. But more than anything else, Hirose's wonderful smile. It was a shock he'd never had before. Definitely love at first sight. Oh. Oh. What is it? What? Dang. Oh, so he fell into the love hole. Love at first sight. Ah, guys, love at first sight. I remember stuff like that. Yeah. The childish descriptions. Oh, his light curly hair, big around gleaming eyes, slightly tan skin. These are definitely the childish descriptions of an angsty teenager. A month had passed since then. No progress had been made. They weren't even friends yet. In fact, they haven't even spoken to each other once. He'd been waiting for a chance to talk to Hirose since the first day, but he hadn't even gotten the chance to look him in the eye. He couldn't take it any longer. Today, he definitely talked to Hirose. At the end of class, Nakamura thought about how he simulated every possible conversation in his head since the first day of school. He went up to Hirose, asking, "How are you this fine day? Why don't we go to a fancy cafe together?" Except that didn't happen. It was just his imagination. He inched his way over, but before he could squeak out a word, his brain overloaded at the sight of the eraser. He didn't calculate for this. He sighed after Hirose picked it up and suddenly questioned what he was so scared of. It wasn't that different from what he had in his head. Bro is overthinking too much. First romance, just think less and get it over with. Heading towards Hirose, he took a sharp turn as his crush began to stretch. Then sat depressed at the desk over. He just couldn't get it done. With Hirose's friends calling him ready to leave, Nakamura felt a sense of urgency. He slapped his own cheeks, got up, and inched closer and closer. Hirose stood up abruptly, having finished his work. He turned back to look at Nakamura with a quizzicalness, and our MC got flustered and ran away. He hid his head in the book cubbies, thinking about how whenever he saw Hirose's face, his head went blank. But now reflecting over the fact their eyes met for the first time, he thought Hirose was so cute. He watched his crush leave, and suddenly, Hirose's handkerchief fell out. Nakamura, of course, imagined a whole scenario where he'd give it back to him in a charming, romantic fashion. He thought this was his chance. Divine inspiration, the natural starting point for a relationship. He turned to stone though, with a female classmate going to pick it up. He hurried, he rushed, slamming it down with an overly dramatic stomp. His classmates were appalled, even more so as he picked up the stepped-on handkerchief and presented it to Hirose. Returning home, he ran straight to his room and began to scream. He thought for sure Hirose hated him now. He cried to his pet octopus Ichan, who raised his tentacle to the glass. With this, Nakamura was determined. It was too early to give up. High school life just started. They'd have more opportunities to talk. We moved to cooking class. Today, they'd be making cucumber salad, miso soup, and grilled fish. Nakamura would eavesdrop to listen in on Hirose's friends, mentioning that, with him missing, they couldn't finish making the miso soup. Hirose hurried in late, and Nakamura began to gush over his sweaty handsomeness. He was late because he had to grab his apron. Putting it on, Nakamura fell back. He was grateful to see how cute Hirose was in his apron. He then had imaginations as the two of them being newlyweds. Hirose would be up early telling him good morning, giving him his coffee, then offering him toast or rice for the day. But with Nakamura saying, "I think I'll have you first, Hirose," that was a little too much. Getting too lost in the sauce, his performance in cooking class went horribly bad. Everything went wrong. He still hadn't managed to talk to Hirose yet, and he was slowing everybody down. He also had difficulty getting closer with Hirose's two buddies always next to him. The teacher would suddenly get called to have a word with another, so she told all the students to stop and only do things that didn't require fire or knives. Hirose spotted something he hadn't expected. Live octopuses! Nakamura rushed over thinking they were so cute, but none of the students remembered hearing anything about cooking octopus today. He got irritated with the students being creeped out and unable to see how cute they were. Picking one up, he thought about how the common octopus was smart and strong, and the moms loved their kids. But now wondered if he totally creeped out Hirose. Looking back, he could see Hirose was staring, and now thinking he might have freaked him out. Much to his surprise, Hirose would also pick up an octopus and enjoy the slippery feel of the tentacles touching him. Apparently, they cut this scene from the manga, and people on Twitter are mad about it. Not gonna lie, I'm pretty impressed by the art detail. Remembering that they might have to cook them, Hirose said they should help the octopuses escape. He supposed they'd just have to hide them until school was over. Seeing Hirose turn the faucet to keep them hydrated, Nakamura stopped him because fresh water was deadly for these sea creatures. The students then speculated on what to do, with the fear impending of the idea of the teacher returning ready to chop them up. Another teacher would come in and eventually clear up this misunderstanding. These creatures were here for observation in class. All the teachers had been searching for them, and he was surprised they ended up here. Class continued, and Nakamura was disappointed with another day going by and no progress made talking to his crush. Then got surprised because Hirose would approach him, asking what he was doing in the corner. Hirose thanked Nakamura. Because of him, the octopuses survived. Nakamura stood wide-eyed as Hirose clamored about touching an octopus for the first time. He enjoyed the feeling of their suctions on his skin and laughed over the marks left over. Nakamura was about to ask him to be his friend, but Hirose would get distracted by another octopus in the sink. He'd pick it up, and unfortunately, it'd spray Nakamura in the face with ink. This gave Hirose a laugh. Even though he wasn't able to make any progress, Nakamura was happy to be a little closer, accepting the fact he was shy, gay, and in love with Aiki Hirose. Just like I'd be in love with you liking the video and subscribing to the channel. That's right, guys. We're going full swing with the gay stuff on this channel, and occasionally other things I can't cover on main. I'm building up the boy love videos here, so you better subscribe if you want more. Watching without a YouTube account? You better make one and subscribe to me anyway, or else boy love is over. So come on, hit that subscribe and I'll be your guy. Not a gay one though. While taking notes, Nakamura went over another set of monologuing internally, describing himself as shy and gay and in love with Hirose. He's gonna keep doing this, so of course, I'ma skip it moving forward. He apparently reads boy love manga every night and studies them as gospel on how he can have his own romance. Guys, this is bad advice. Do not get all your experience from manga and anime. Learn maybe from your parents if you're young, but mostly trial by fire. He describes his love guide BL manga, Lovable Lunches, a thrilling rom-com between the passionate, reliable Makunochi and Taku, who gradually comes to terms with his feelings. In the last volume, Makunochi admits his feelings. Nakamura wanted to be as assertive as him. He thought Taku was cute and reminded him of Hirose. He was being so loud and annoying, his sister had to come in to tell him to shut up. At school, the female classmates were talking about the latest anime based on a shonen manga. It's about a bodyguard who gets saved by the heroine, and he apparently has a coworker slash rival who's all cool and handsome. So this girl started looking at them in a BL way? Oh my god, is this my viewers again? No, it's like Deku and Bakugo all over again. Hifumi noticed a cockroach, and the girls began screaming and running away. However, how it's depicted is the little cockroach being happy and joyful, smiling and telling everyone it's come to visit. Personally, I've never seen one in real life, so are they this cute? Nakamura finally arrived, and one of the girls shook him, telling him to do something about the bug. He got thrown into it, and he couldn't believe this. He was ignored most of the time, so why now? He'd then hear Hirose's greeting, and his imagination played back to the manga, where Maku saves Taku from the Housefly King. He's seen this scenario in Lovable Lunches, and now felt all his BL reading has paid off. He hoped Hirose would see how cool he was, and tell him to come to his place to deal with his cockroaches. He then folded up one of his notebooks, and approached the little bug. Although he didn't like killing bugs for no reason, it hopped on. His plan was to keep it alive and get it outside. He turned back, hoping to impress his crush, and Hirose stared in awe. However, the little bug saw a tunnel and decided to climb into Nakamura's sleeve. Everyone freaked out and backed away. He couldn't move, feeling it crawl on his back and his stomach. Hirose rushed in and shoved his hand into Nakamura's clothes. He could feel Hirose's small, strong hands, sweat and warmth, until he touched something else. This is so gay. Hirose eventually pulled out the cockroach victoriously. He then held his hand out the window, and the bug happily flew away. He turned back to see a tear fall from Nakamura's eye. Our main character was elated, having been touched by Hirose, and thankful for the cockroach. For a while after that, people kept their distance though. During math class, instead of paying attention, Nakamura was studying more of his favorite BL manga, plotting his next move to impress Hirose. He considered acting more confident, and his teacher would whack him to pay attention. Nakamura was glad at least his teacher didn't notice he was reading BL in class. He decided to read it while he ate, for practice to make himself feel better. This particular chapter, Makunochi was trying to feed Taku, but he got rejected. Taku had said at this point he liked him, but didn't know what that really entailed. That's when Maku wiped the food off Taku's mouth and said, "Don't worry, I'll make sure you know exactly what it means." He then presented more food face to face, adding, "This is my special, love-filled, super sweet tamagoyaki. First, taste this." Taku swallowed and said it was delicious. Nakamura was full, both from eating and the heart now. He'd love to have lunch with Hirose someday, like in the manga. They could feed each other. He imagined having Hirose say, "Ah," and asking him, "How's my special octo-wiener?" Hirose would then ask Nakamura if they could put octo-wieners in each other's mouths every day. Okay, he didn't say that, but I just felt I had to. Walking in the hall, Nakamura tripped over a bucket and fell. Who came to check on him? Hirose, of course. Nakamura freaked out, but then quickly began to seem like he was alright. Hearing Hirose was worried about him, Nakamura thought his kindness was on another level. Hirose would point to something at Nakamura's feet. It was lovable lunches. Nakamura began to sweat profusely, and with him denying it was his, Hirose became skeptical, seeing he denied so quickly. However, he would take it to the class, wanting to return it to its proper owner. He really stood in front of everyone and asked. Wow, I'd be pretty embarrassed if I was Nakamura for sure. The boys started joking, realizing it was a BL book, and now Nakamura was having flashbacks. There was a time right after swim class in elementary school. The teacher pulled out his underwear since it was left in the locker rooms. The boys in front of Nakamura teased because whoever it was wasn't wearing any. Back then, all he could do was panic. But since growing up, he knew exactly what to do at times like these. He made his way to his desk and played dumb. The day ended with zero progress made again. He wondered if he was getting further away from his crush. And now his manga was gone too. He headed into the teacher's office to get a new form for his bike, and found Kaoru-sensei reading his book. Apparently, Kaoru thought it was pretty good. He was sure whoever it was probably too embarrassed to get it, considering its strange premise. But he figured exactly what I've been thinking the entire time. The owner of this book is naive about love. Nakamura shrank further and got his bike form. On his way home, he'd stop by the bookstore to get another copy of Lovable Lunches. And of course, he'd somehow come across Hirose greeting him. Hirose pondered on it a bit, but eventually remembered his name, calling him Cockroach Boy Nakamura. The guy who stepped on his handkerchief and had an octopus spit ink at him, Nakamura. He remembered him because it was so funny. Despite Nakamura's embarrassment, Hirose greeted him kindly, and now they'd finally both introduced themselves to each other. Hirose would ask about the manga in Nakamura's hand, but our boy made the excuse it just fell off the shelf and he was putting it back. Hirose would ask about the section and Nakamura stammered, admitting boys love. Thinking back to the manga he saw earlier, Hirose went, so you read it too? Even though Nakamura tried to deny it. Oh my god, look at Hirose's face. So smug and goofy. Nakamura was again embarrassed, but Hirose then simply said, well, different strokes for different folks. He thought it was fine that Nakamura read this stuff. It eased Nakamura's heart. Hirose helped him realize he wasn't doing anything wrong, so there was no need to hide it. Maku would always have his head held high, surely. He'd then show Hirose the next book he was looking for. But apparently it was so bad they redacted it? Is it X-rated? Who knows? Hirose got embarrassed, saying different strokes for different folks again, and hurried out. Nakamura once again found himself in an embarrassing position. After realizing he could never be Maku, he stopped trying to learn lessons from BL. Alright, well, this wasn't too bad. I will say I don't really like school romances, especially ones like this, where the protagonist is super naive and inexperienced. It had some funny moments, but I don't think nearly as entertaining as last season's Isekai Office Worker. What do you guys think? Do you want me to continue? Subscribe for more BL. But for now, watch this next video. It's me, Comfy T. I'll see you all in the next one.